Sometimes, when you're in a match where every single enemy player seems to be performing really well, it becomes extremely difficult to identify who the real problem is. You might think, okay, this enemy is the one I need to focus on, because they're getting all the kills or making flashy plays. But that might not always be the case. The actual problem could be someone you've been completely ignoring, a player who quietly supports their team, creates space, or provides the stability that allows their teammates to shine. Finding that hidden key player in the enemy team is one of the most challenging parts of the game. When everyone is doing well, it becomes easy to get distracted by the obvious threats, the assassin who's fed, or the support who keeps everyone alive. But often, the true backbone of their success is the one you least expect. It could be the tank who's always in the right place, the mage who keeps bursting you down, or even that offlaner who consistently pressures the map without you realizing how much impact they're creating. Sometimes these players don't make a lot of noise. They don't dominate the kill feed or get MVP, but their presence is what keeps the entire enemy team together. They're the glue that holds the structure intact. The moment that specific player is taken out, you'll notice how quickly the enemy team starts to crumble. Their coordination breaks down, and the fights that once seemed impossible start turning in your favor. So as you can see, we were doing pretty well in the early to mid game. We had control over most of the fights, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. But as the match went on, things slowly started to shift. The enemies began to take back control, and little by little, we started losing our advantage. And the interesting part is, it wasn't the entire enemy team that turned the game around. It was mainly two specific players who completely changed the flow of the match as the game progressed. They weren't making huge plays early on, but the longer the game went, the more impact they started to have, and eventually, they were the ones who turned the match completely upside down. As you can see, me and my teammates actually started throwing the game here. We were getting caught one by one, taking unnecessary fights, and giving away kills that turned into a massive gold advantage for the enemy team. Every small mistake we made just helped them snowball even harder, and before we realized it, they had completely taken control of the game. That's how the momentum started to shift, from us dominating in the early phase to them slowly turning everything around. And this was the point where the match truly flipped upside down. The two enemies that really made this match difficult for us were actually the mage and the support. At first, I didn't pay much attention to them. I was more focused on the core heroes who were getting all the kills and dealing heavy damage. But as the match went on, I slowly started realizing that these two were the real reason why the game was slipping out of our control. Their coordination was on another level. Every time we tried to engage or catch someone out of position, the support was already there to save them, providing perfect timing with shields, heals, or crowd control. And right behind them, the mage kept dealing consistent damage from a safe distance, controlling the fights and zoning us out completely. It wasn't flashy at first, they weren't dominating the scoreboard, but their combined presence was quietly changing the entire pace of the game. You'll notice as we move further into the match how their teamwork starts to shine more and more. Every time we thought we had a good opening, they turned the situation around with their perfect synergy. The support would initiate or protect just at the right time, and the mage would immediately follow up, punishing every mistake we made. Eventually, I figured it out during the game. These two were the real backbone of the enemy team. Without them, the enemy lineup wouldn't have been nearly as strong. But because of how well they played together, it made the match incredibly hard for us, to the point where we were almost about to lose. That's when I realized how much of an impact a well-coordinated mage and support can have, not by getting kills, but by enabling their entire team to perform at their best. The fact that Rafaela can resurrect the enemies we work so hard to kill makes the game so much tougher. Every time we finally take someone down, she just brings them right back, completely wasting all our effort. It's honestly frustrating because it keeps the enemies constantly alive and ready to fight again. And then there's Gord. His burst potential is insane. His damage keeps increasing, and his aim is almost perfect. Every time we try to engage, he lands that stun right on point, completely locking us down. Together, Rafaela and Gord make the game feel almost unapproachable. Rafaela keeps everyone alive, and Gord just melts us the moment we try to fight back. Their coordination completely breaks our tempo and turns every team fight into a nightmare. So by this point in the match, I've already realized that Gord and Rafaela are the real threats to us. Earlier, I was focusing on the wrong targets, but now it's pretty clear who's actually making our fight so difficult. So instead of wasting time trying to kill Rafaela, who's super tanky and heals like crazy, I decide to ignore her and mark Gord instead. Rafaela might be annoying with her constant heals and sustain, but she's not the one dealing the damage that's destroying us. On the other hand, Gord has much lower HP, and even though Rafaela keeps healing him, I can still deal enough burst damage that her healing can't keep up. So that's what I focus on, taking out the real threat instead of wasting everything on a hero that's hard to kill. This is something really important to understand. Knowing who to target makes a huge difference in a match. For example, if the enemy EXP laner is causing chaos and you can't seem to take him down in a team fight, don't waste all your skills and time on him. Just ignore him for the moment and go for someone else who's easier to kill or more valuable to eliminate. Those tanky heroes are built to absorb pressure, that's their job. But if you catch them alone or off guard later, then you can easily take them down with your team's help. And if the real problem is a squishy hero, like a mage, marksman, or assassin, then make sure you focus them. Even if you can't completely kill them, forcing out their flicker, wind chant, or immortality is already a win. You're removing their safety tools and making it easier for your team to finish the fight later. So yeah, always know who to mark and when to switch your focus. Sometimes it's not about who's strongest, it's about who's keeping the enemy team together. Once you figure that out, fights become a lot easier to handle. So this is another match, but before we get into that, let me just go back and talk a bit about the late game of the previous match and explain exactly what I did there. Now, you guys might be wondering, if I already knew that the mage and support were the main problems, and I chose to target the mage instead of the support, then why didn't I actually manage to kill him? And why was I just roaming around in their base instead of finishing him off?
I did work from you. What so doing he can no?
Well, honestly, I was trying to kill him. I really wanted to. But for some reason, I kept missing my shadows. I don't know. Maybe it was the pressure, or maybe I was just off with my timing at that moment. But even though I wasn't landing everything perfectly, I still wanted to make it very clear to the enemy mage that I was constantly after him.
What this guy is doing?
That's the main point here. I wanted him to feel that pressure. I wanted him to know that he's being targeted every single time he shows up in a fight. And you know what? It actually worked. Even though I didn't manage to kill him, it made him hesitant in team fights. You could see the difference. He started playing more carefully, keeping extra distance, and wasn't as confident as he was earlier in the match.
Sorry. Oh, lol.
That hesitation alone reduced his overall impact in the late game. So even without getting the kill, I achieved what I wanted. I created fear in the mage's mind. That's why you see me roaming around in their base, waiting for the perfect angle. I was keeping him on edge, forcing him to play defensively. And because of that, our team fights became a little easier to handle, since their main damage dealer wasn't performing as aggressively as before. So yeah, sometimes it's not always about getting the kill. It's about making your opponent uncomfortable and limiting their confidence. That small mental pressure can completely change how the late game plays out.
Nice.
This Lord fight is really messy.
Nice. Sorry, I'm missing my combo. Nice. Okay. Nice. He got lost. What is this guy doing? Why is he kicking me? No. Nice, nice. Easy.
If Kadita hadn't cleared those minions at that moment, we would have straight up lost the game. So guys, that's all I wanted to say. When it comes to figuring out who the real problem in the enemy team is, don't just focus on the ones making big flashy plays. Try to notice the small things, those subtle contributions that don't always show up in the kill feed. Because sometimes, those big, impactful moments you see on screen are only possible because of someone else quietly setting them up behind the scenes. Now, I know what you might be thinking. At the end of the day, you just need to mark the squishy ones, right? And yes, you're not wrong. You should target the squishy heroes most of the time. I'm not saying don't do that. But there's more to it than just that.
I will get
For example, if the main problem in the enemy team is a heavy stun-based EXP laner, you don't necessarily need to dive straight into him. That's a trap. You should still mark the squishy heroes, but at the same time, your job is to avoid those stuns at all costs. You have to stay constantly aware of their position, their skills, and the timing of their crowd control. You see, I can't tell you exactly what to do in every situation because every match is different. Every lineup, every playstyle, every small decision changes the entire game. But what I can do is give you a few ideas, a few hunches, to help you figure things out on your own during matches. For example, if the EXP laner is the main problem, don't waste time trying to 1v1 him in the middle of the fight. Just avoid him as much as you can and focus on taking down his teammates instead. If the assassin is the real issue, let's say it's something like Saber, and you're playing Ling, then play smart. Don't expose yourself too much on the map. Wait patiently, move carefully, and only go in when you see him appear and, ideally, when you know his ultimate is already used. And if the problem is a squishy hero like a marksman or a mage, then that's your priority target. You don't even have to kill them every time. Sometimes just jumping on them is enough to scare them off, force their flicker, immortality, or wind chant, and make them play more defensively. That alone can give your team a huge advantage in the next fight. At the end of the day, it's all about awareness, patience, and smart decision-making. No matter who the threat is, learn to deal with them using your own intelligence and instincts. Don't rush blindly into fights or repeat the same mistakes that can throw the game away. Just keep playing, keep observing, and keep learning from every match. The more you play, the more you'll naturally develop the sense of who's the real problem and how to handle different situations. It all comes with experience. And trust me, once you get that awareness, you'll start seeing the game completely differently.
I want to mark me name.
He was there.